at 11:20.
Recording is in progress.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. So as we start today, we are in week 105 of our Indigenous Global Unity Summit event. Today is June 8th, 2023. I do like to start each one of these IGU summits with a land acknowledgement. So in this case, I am in Asia, in Taiwan. So as I acknowledge those who came before us on this land, I'd like to say that we begin by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples. We recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. I acknowledge the land that I am here residing and visiting here in Taoyuan, Taiwan, is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Austronesian Indigenous peoples who have lived on this island for over 8,000 years, the East Formosan tribes of the Atayal peoples of central and northern Taiwan, also known as the Tayal or the Tayan, meaning human or man, and where Taoyuan City in this modern age contains 16 different Aboriginal groups whose population exceeds 70,000 people, making Taoyuan the most populated city for Indigenous peoples on the western part of the island. We also acknowledge that the Indigenous Culture Center of Taoyuan City, first established in May 2004, has become a gathering point for the Indigenous peoples, as well as being listed as one of Taoyuan City's story houses, and whose totem poles on Rainbow Avenue express the Indigenous spirit with beautiful lines, and where the colors on the base of each totem pole derive from the costumes of the different tribes, integrating with the unique landscapes of Taiwan to symbolize the unity of all ethnic peoples. We'd like to thank the Indigenous peoples of these lands, including the Atayal, for sharing this land with us. In our role as settlers and visitors and displaced people on this land, we share the responsibility of challenging and disrupting colonial systems that enact violence upon the land, and stand in solidarity with Indigenous peoples. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. During the last session on Monday, I did a second acknowledgement of the Turtle Island peoples, but seeing that there are no people from the Greater Toronto area on the line with us at this time, I will forego that second land acknowledgement. So thank you very much. I do want to say to our friends in Africa, or Al-Kebulan, Moses in particular, Asante Sana, thank you very much in Swahili. So thank you for joining us today for this IGU Summit. I'd also like to say Sawubona, which means I see you, I see myself in you, I see your hopes, your dreams, and your struggles. I see your ancestors as well, because interconnectedness does not end with two people who are greeting each other. It extends to include the ancestors. All beings in Mother Nature are interconnected. There is no sense of being separate. I see myself in all beings, and therefore if I harm other beings or Mother Nature, it translates into harming myself. So today, again, Thursday, June 8th, 2023, this is week 105 of our IGU Summit series. I didn't update my notes in completion. Last week was International Children's Day on June 8th. So about a quarter of the world's population observed Children's Day. This is so strange. I thought I did update this. Maybe I have two copies. Yes, I do. I have 2 copies of my IGU Summit. Okay. Okay, let me go back a little bit in time here. So Thursday, June 8th, week 105. Today is African Border Day. So African Border Day was something that the African Union began celebrating. This is the 11th edition of the African Border Day under the theme Arts, Culture, and Heritage, Levers for Building the Africa We Want. This statutory commemoration is held in the context of the implementation of the African Union Border Program, or AUBP, which aims to sensitize stakeholders on the role of borders in promoting peace, security, and stability, and to highlight the efforts of the African Union Border Program to promote and strengthen regional and continental integration. Borders, in the spirit of AUBP, are understood as instruments to promote peace and security, and are zones to facilitate regional integration. In this regard, borders have a dual function as points of contact, junctions, and bridges, and as points of separation for control and protection. Hence, border areas are melting pots and shared bridges, and as points of, are melting pots of shared cultures, traditions, and arts that traverse boundaries. On this occasion, and in line with the AU theme of the year, the AUBP, championed by the Political Affairs, Peace, and Security Department of the African Union Commission, will showcase the culture, heritage, and arts found in border areas across the continent and highlight socio-cultural cross-border cooperation initiatives and their impact. I will put that information that I just read into the chat for those to understand this African Border Day, which I did not understand or did not hear about until this morning. Somebody mentioned it. So of course, earlier this week on Monday, June 5th, we had our World Environment Day, UnityNet GTA Abraham Project tree planting ceremonies. This year marked a special year in our history because we're expanding our network into East Asia. Last year's celebrations in 2022 in Mississauga, Ontario, and all across Africa. Those plantings and ceremonies were done as globally coordinated Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree plantings, were the ones that kicked off our campaigns to do tree plantings at any time of year from the date last year moving forward. Of course, we still want to commemorate the June Global Cooperation Showcase events for World Environment Day every year, because these global Unity Network events are intended to facilitate regenerative localization by helping to facilitate the coming together of the local and regional partners required for creating the INAP collaborative empowerment networks for our local regenerative development solutions providers, the FFHE, in all of our local communities worldwide. And our goal is the same. We are assisting in the goal, the transition to a localized, productive CCRE, that LNOB, as we approach the end of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. So the theme for World Environment Day on June 5th, 2023 was Beat Plastic Pollution. This year, because I'm still in Taiwan, one of our members of UnityNet International, UnityNet GTA, and the Maui Aloha project was up in the region of Ontario called Muskoka on Monday and planted a white pine tree in a local park in that part of Ontario. And we recorded the private ceremony so that all of the members of UnityNet know that we continue to do our work in solidarity to the purpose of all of the Continental Network members of UnityNet, including our first Continental Network, UNAT, or UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. So on Monday, we also held an online discussion by Zoom starting at 10 a.m. EST, where we talked about organizing future tree planting ceremonies throughout the rest of the year, along with establishing peace poles in our local communities and in local schools. We'll be continuing our UnityNet community engagement campaigns to encourage community members to collaborate to create local multi-stakeholder partnerships as per SDG 17, our UnityNet INAB collaboratives, and to plant productive regenerative youth peace gardens in each of our own local communities, watersheds, and bioregions globally. The next big event is our Bubble Fun Festival, which takes place on Saturday, August 12th, International Youth Day. So thank you for joining us again on this Thursday Zoom session on this celebration of African Border Day. And if you're watching this on social media, on Facebook, please also join our LinkedIn and WhatsApp groups. Help us to create a truly global network of educators, professionals, and active citizens who are helping to accelerate the transition to a localized, responsible, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that seeks to leave no one behind. So I'm putting a little bit of information again in the chat regarding Monday event that we just had. There's also a little bit of information about International Youth Day, which is coming up on 12th of August, as well as our Bubble Fun Festival network, which includes a number of sites, both on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So today is intended to be a special guest speaker, Dr. Meenakshi Sawhney from the LA Global Foundation. She's a member of UnityNet India and also of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and many other networks and organizations in that part of Asia. So Meenakshi is also one of the co-founders of the UnityNet Commonwealth G20 Partnership for Regenerative Development, which was a precursor network of the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, which is now home to most of our professional members. So the organization, LA Global Foundation, is a nonprofit organization. They're working toward the holistic development of the people across health, education, water, sanitation, and economic development. They are in New Delhi, India, and I will also copy here some of their address and contact information if anybody may be interested in getting in touch with them. But as always, I like to start with an introduction of who I am, who we are, and what we do, where the overall purpose of UnityNet is to establish this global network of community Unity Garden learning centers, where the hybrid exchange programs and practicum learning will be delivered by the members of UnityNet's partners to all members of the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, our learning partnership for global unity. The learning programs are intended to be delivered through the Global Sister Schools program in partnership with the members of the Global Unity Network. What we do is to twin our local INAB collaborative communities through the CTP program, the Science for Peace Drawdown Markham Community Climate Action Hub, which has a goal of building holistic, regenerative, climate-smart communities here in the Greater Toronto bioregion, which is where I normally am. In support of the UnityNet AHIABGA project of localization of the global goals and the establishment of a localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. What I was saying to one of our members of UNAD in the past weeks was the best way to learn about the actions and purpose of UnityNet is to attend one of these IGU Summit events, and also to take the training in community-based partnership building from our partner, Dance and Fitness Concepts in California, who's among us to try to help us succeed. Because what we are doing through UnityNet, the Global Unity Network, is helping local people, all people from every country around the world, not just in Africa, but globally, to structure their own local community and enterprise networks so they're prepared for the critical investments in climate change, adaptation, and resilience solutions that are coming from all around the world and that are vital for our very survival, and may even allow people in places like Africa to thrive in a much warmer and more extreme climate. But without creating these community-based structures, the multi-stakeholder partnerships with all community members as per the HMP template or HEPTA matrix partnership, as transparent, nonprofit, cooperative management entities, the global investors will not wish to consider to invest in places like Africa if they expect that there may even be a little bit of remaining corruption. As I noted as well, and as a private sector initiative, most high-end investors would much rather put their money into so-called developed economies, places like America or Europe or Japan or Australia, because the general feeling in most cases is that the developed world is a much safer place to invest in the solutions. However, UnityNet is trying to change that perception by showing that it's possible to invest in places like Africa and avoid the corruption and avoid having to use the Bretton Woods system of top-down financing from the World Bank and others, and to make secure direct investments into the people and the solutions and still make an impact and still make a profit. Because it is so much of the historical and sometimes ongoing corruption that has clouded the vision and the prevailing perception that places like Africa are not a place to invest in the people on the ground, but are just only places to invest for the resources and not for the people. And this is one of the reasons why there is so very little investment into the people of Africa, except for the extractive industries like mining and logging and industrial production, which is inevitably controlled by the big corporations that don't usually hire the locals for their skills, but instead hire them for menial labor. Most of these corporations will instead bring in their own experts from Europe or China or India or the US or Korea or any of the already industrialized countries to manage the projects and manage the profits. And you can be certain that the big corporations will not teach you how to do what they do or provide you with the finance to buy your own equipment to compete against their own personal interests, but will continue instead to use your lands and use your hands and your people and their own for their own personal corporate benefit and profits. So let us work on the plans for places like Africa, but where these plans should mostly come from the internal discussions, which need to be formalized and presented to potential investors as a package and roadmap for action over the long term, and must also show the potential for profit, while also showing the plan of action for the delivery of the essential holistic education and training of the human resources will manage the productive solutions over the next few generations in order to ensure that growth can be maintained and potential corruption can be held at bay, which is why our primary tool is the establishment of the INAB collaboratives, the multi-stakeholder partnership ecosystems formalized so that those investors can be confident that what they are investing into will be lasting, will endure over time, and will not be squandered into somebody's pocket like a corrupt politician or middleman. So my advice to you is, do not be dazzled by promises of riches or overnight wealth, because for most of these types of investors, they just want your resources and will take away the profits for their own peoples in their own countries and businesses. Companies like Energime and by extension UnityNet are here to help you, to teach you the entrepreneurship skills and both the soft and hard skills that help you to establish your own kind of industrial civilization from the grassroots level, but one that leads the way in the world and is based on regenerative resources, especially the people and their skills and their minds, by teaching about passion and compassion and not just greed, in a different way to the me first mentality that is so insidious and common. It is a system where the enterprise solutions that are made by community members who understand the coming together locally and globally to help each other to succeed, all of us together as one human family, and to help Mother Nature and all our relations to also succeed in all of their own local habitats and watersheds and bioregions of this beautiful planet, is the only way forward for human survival and for thriving in a much warmer climate. What it means for each of us in each of our lives, in each of our own local communities, and in the personal business and families for all of the members of UnityNet, is that our mission is all about helping to create a radical shift in the collective priorities in order to try to change the trajectory we're currently on, to try to nudge the system in the right direction and create some tipping points in the collective consciousness of humanity itself, because it might just be the only way that we can survive what's called the Anthropocene. So we don't have our Meenakshi on the call today with us one more time. It seems unfortunate. She seemed excited earlier today when I said, well, I asked her yesterday if she would be willing to come on and try again. So I'm not sure what I should be doing at this point. I'm just putting a few other things into the chat for our guest who's on with us. Perhaps Moses, you could introduce yourself to the rest of those who may be watching on Facebook, so everybody knows who you are as well. Would you like to do that before I continue?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lloyd of the UnityNet. My name's Moses Okiru Ekasiba, the Executive Director of the Gilead Inclusive Global Organization, an NGO registered under the Kenyan government that champions human rights and development. I'm based in Mombasa, Kenya, and a member of the UnityNet Kenya, and that's why you see me today joining here. Thank you all. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on with us as well. We have a fairly quiet day today, it seems. I am going to go on to the second page of our PowerPoint here, which doesn't look too very different, but it does some differences because I want to explain that our organization, UnityNet International, which is based in the Greater Toronto area of Canada, our purpose is to help people and organizations in all of our local communities establish the local empowerment networks, those localized multi-stakeholder coalitions and networks that help to attract ESG-based funding for local productive humanitarian entrepreneurs. We'd like to build an international network of researchers and developers and educators as well for the globalization of global goals, with the priority actions focused on what's called regenerative development or regenerative living and lifestyles, which includes regenerative infrastructure and regenerative finance. So for us in UnityNet Canada and UnityNet Ontario, both in the Greater Toronto area and the Ottawa Valley, these being the capital of our province and our country, the decisions are being made in those areas. So they are very important hubs of activity, especially around the delivery of local solutions, where we're looking at achieving sustainable energy for all and housing for all, along with regenerative food for all, through the global partnership ecosystems. So we're helping to demonstrate and achieve holistic, healthy communities for all. The specific areas of focus of UnityNet are around renewable energy, along with sustainable agriculture or regenerative farming and food production, grown in the regenerative climate smart way, along with regenerative water management and waste management, or circular economy solutions for the purpose of economic growth and expansion, but specifically done in a regenerative climate smart way, using regenerative infrastructure solutions run by regenerative humanitarian entrepreneurs, along with supporting integrated localized habitat solutions for regenerative holistic living, learning, and lifestyle developments or redevelopments that help to achieve a localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Because within these development paradigms, it should be possible to continue to achieve economic growth at the same time as we repair the planet, as we continue along the pathways figuring out how to create a robust and resilient and equitable economic system that does not require continuous and expanding extraction and degradation of ecosystems to survive, and to be both stable and sustainable and leave no one behind. So our main question to those whom we partner with, how can we help you to succeed in your business as the entire economy moves toward a relocalized or globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that seeks to leave no one behind in all of our local communities worldwide. So with that, I will move to the next page on our presentation here, and I'm guessing that from the silence that we still have nobody by the name of Meenakshi on our call today with us. So I'm going to go on maybe for another 15 minutes until my midnight. If Meenakshi doesn't come on by that time, I'm probably going to stop the presentation for today, but we'll go through the next slides. So what we do in UnityNet, and this started through our Drawdown Market Youth Task Force, which is now done through the work of UnityNet International and our partners in UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, is to establish localized INAB collaboratives, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives that are intended to empower our local productive humanitarian entrepreneurs in each of our own local communities, where our overarching goal is to establish a global network of local INAB collaboratives. The humanitarian entrepreneurs who are members of these INAB collaboratives, including the GP4RD members, are the ones who will also deliver the practical local regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, those SDGs locally, or as we like to say, locally. The purpose of the INAB collaboratives is not only to empower the local humanitarian entrepreneurs, but also to help organize the ongoing community engagement, as well as helping to create the local structures that will help our partners to deliver the education and training in the local solutions that are required for local people to understand how to create and run things locally in their own local communities in order to become more resilient, self-sufficient, and decolonized, and to better adapt to climate change, to boost their local economies, to ensure equity, harmony, and peace, and also to ensure that nobody is being left behind in their own local communities, watersheds, and bioregions. The INAB collaboratives also ensure transparency and accountability and are the vehicle through which we can demonstrate regenerative finance, where a portion of the monies that are spent in the community will also stay in the community, but where a portion of the productive profits from the local regenerative community enterprises are also used to help others in their own local watersheds and bioregions and countries and continent get started on this journey to self-sufficiency and resilience through collaborative humanitarian enterprise development pathways. This is done in order to ensure that nobody is being left behind, and where some of those funds could also be used to help others around the world to ensure that all local communities can become self-sufficient and resilient and regenerative. Our ultimate purpose is ensuring that every local community in the UnityNet network globally has an INAB collaborative and their own local cooperative humanitarian enterprise network that's not only localizing global goals, but is also helping their local communities to achieve a localized, responsible, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So our goal is that by 2030, it will be recognized by those in finance who finance projects in infrastructure or provide things like insurance products for businesses, that doing a local project or infrastructure development in any local community, anywhere on earth, should not get the financing until there is an active and functional INAP collaborative
You're fucked.
in that local community, made up of the community members and their allies globally. But this is where we have to decide how we start this process. So we start with the Youth Peace Gardens Network, where the discussions in our local communities, by working with young people, their teachers, their families, their neighbors, to begin organizing, planning, and building a network of local youth peace gardens. And it's in these gardens where we'll be able to spread the message of UnityNet and all we seek to achieve, because our message involves peace and a change in the paradigm of dialogue. We must always remember that we are fighting with peace and not for it, which means using higher consciousness in achieving our objectives. We're not fighting a war with each other to save the planet. We're making peace with the planet to save ourselves. This strategy is being delivered at the grassroots level in all of our local communities and will allow us to create a shared consciousness with peacemaking that is more contagious than fear and war. The strategy was originally coined by our partners in the Greater Unity Network, who also called it the Gaia's Guitar Strategy, and where the message will be centered around the elements and symbols of peace that we wish to incorporate into every local community of UnityNet. And these include the peace poles in every community and classroom, a network of youth peace gardens established in each local community at a rate of 1 garden per 1,000 residents, a tree of peace and reconciliation planted in each garden, and possibly also an Indigenous unity flag raised in a location nearby, in those places where it is recognized symbol of Indigenous unity, along with a peace pole erected in a conspicuous location with high foot traffic within or next to the garden. I'm just seeing this message, Lisa Anise. What is it that you're trying to send?
The entire chat.
Okay.
My apologies that I didn't say where I was working.
Uh-huh. So where are you then?
Well, no, I've been going through the chat and I wanted to forward that information to my inbox.
Okay. So I guess I'm looking at the clock, 11:52, about another 8 minutes until we drop off probably for today, if case is that Meenakshi does not come on the call with us. I just bring in a little bit of information again in the chat. I want to mention before I close though, however, that my name is Lloyd Halferty, co-founder of UnityNet International, known as Uni, a hybrid holistic practicum learning system management company based in Canada, also assisting with community partnership building locally and globally, or as we like to say, locally, by leveraging a set of community engagement activities developed in partnership with the members of the ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. I'm also the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and the Sustainable Society Consultant for Energy Institute, which is headquartered in Manhattan, New York. I am normally located in the city of Markham in the Don River watershed, German Mills Creek, that drains in Lake Ontario in the North American Great Lakes area, Great Lakes Basin of the Greater Toronto bioregion. However, I am right now in Taiwan, in an area called Taoyuan. And actually, I visited the main river today, this morning during my walk. And it is quite a nice river to look at, but once you get closer, it is clear that it is quite polluted. So Energyme Institute is a private 501(c) nonprofit company in New York City, a member of the UN Global Compact, a UN academic impact member and partner. It's a virtual university created to help empower global populations reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments. We do this by designing and implementing projects that support a strong and diversified local economy, while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into those communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, and systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. We are supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. Energyme Institute, though, supports local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all of these various integrated solutions for achieving closed-loop systems that in turn support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. So I will put in the chat my direct contact information as well. I believe, Moses, that you do have it already, but this is a second chance for you to have my complete information. Again, you can save the chat by pressing the three little dots at the bottom. There's also, you might wish to know about the methodology for education and training on the Energyme Institute website. Actually, I may need to update that because it still says energymeuniversity.org. You'll need to change that likely to energymeinstitute.org. Just change that right now. Should be the correct URL. Hopefully, I will have to double check that later. I also wish to let you know about the Science for Peace Codswog Climate Smart Food group, which is also supported by Energyme University, and which is one of the entry points for discussions regarding achieving regenerative food systems, while also potentially achieving drawdown in our local communities. So we do have a living, called the Living Room Calendar. These are the events coming up, or the events that already are in our rear view mirror. This reflects our drawdown mark on UnityNet GTA plan for 2023. And it revolves around 5 key community events in April, May, June, August, and October. So we've done the ones in April, May, and June already. We have 2 remaining this year, one in August and one in October. I mentioned the one in August is our Bubble Fun Festivals. So the first one, 100th Day on Earth Day, Saturday, April 22nd, an event that is now again in our rear view mirror, took place in April. So I have arrived in Taiwan just 2 weeks ago, Thursday, May 25th. I'll be staying here for the rest of the year until mid-December, almost Christmas. While here in Asia, I will be seeking to meet with the designer of the Wheel of Life farm, learn more about his plans for the regenerative aquaponics system he is developing over there. So again, he's in Vietnam, which is only about 3.5-hour flight from Taiwan. Although the proof of concept projects might be done in other places around the world as well, such as in Bangladesh or in other marginalized communities on multiple continents. Since I'll be staying here in Taiwan for 7 months, I have already begun to pivot most of my attention to Asia with a strong focus on building my relationships here in Taiwan, along with helping others to build their own networks in the various other countries of Southeast Asia, as well as in East and South Central Asia as well. and where my focus will be to begin having conversations about establishing the peace poles in the schools and the youth peace gardens in the local communities of Taiwan by working with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan, possibly also the Lions and Rotary and other local service organizations, as first steps to establishing a peace center project, perhaps also a UnityNet museum somewhere on the island of Taiwan, perhaps in the mountains around Taipei or Taoyuan, which means peach garden, and alludes to its history of producing peaches in some of the most productive gardens on the island in the mountains. So this means I won't be on the ground to support the original local UnityNet GTA team directly, at least not for the next 7 months or so, but I will be participating in the ongoing discussions with institutions like York University and the University of Toronto, and Rotary Ontario and the local Scouts groups and YMCA and the local school boards and the City of Markham's Mayor's Youth Task Force, as well as IBM Canada, which has their headquarters in Markham and hosts one of the York University Markham campus buildings. So we'll continue to have conversations about twinning some projects, possibly between Taiwan and Canada, but also Bangladesh and Nepal and Indonesia, and of course with the communities of Africa that we know we may still be able to do local POC projects in various provinces of Canada, in Ontario and BC, possibly also in Alberta and Quebec and elsewhere, through the PodNet Global Network, established across Canada and internationally as well. And where I still hope to move forward with the University of Toronto and the local school boards, New York University, which already has 5 locations where they can help us to do POC projects at their climate solution parks, 2 of which are in downtown Toronto, one at Regent Park neighborhood, the other site at Downsview Park, which is a former military base in Toronto, where there are over 570 acres of land to work with, and which is already home to one of Canada's largest urban farms. So the York U Markham campus researchers also have at least 3 other sites, including at a First Nations community up in Northern Ontario, which we would like to be in our twin for the Indigenous community projects in places like Kenya or Uganda or South Africa with the Zulu, or in Mexico with the Maya, or even with the Atayal peoples of central and northern Taiwan, or any of the other 15 other tribes that are over here. In the meantime, while I'm here in Taiwan, I have reconnected with at least one of my contacts at the Industrial Technology Research Institute, which is considered the Clean Energy and Ecotechnology Center of Taiwan. They represent the Taiwan research industry for clean tech, green tech. And I will also reconnect with some people at the National Chongqing University in Taichung, along with universities on the island. While I hope that we can partner with York University and the University of Toronto and various other universities and colleges and high schools in places like California and Hawaii and Sri Lanka and Nepal and Indonesia and Vietnam, and of course in Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean and Oceania too. This can be done through our UnityNet Global Sister Schools program and the learning exchange programs between the schools, so that we can help to get those students learning quickly and can empower them to design and deploy the solutions that they will need, along with all of the related learning programs, so that local communities around the world can begin to help young people get some hands-on experience with all of these regenerative climate smart adaptation and resilience solutions that will allow local communities to begin adapting to climate change and put them on a path to restoring nature through local habitat restoration projects done in their own local watersheds and bioregions. So I believe we are now sitting at 3 minutes after 12. I'm guessing that you will need to be departing us fairly soon, Denise. Seems that we do not have our guest speaker coming on with us today again, Meenakshi. So at this time, I believe I'm just putting a little bit of additional information in the chat in case people would like to know a bit more about where I am, what I am dealing with in terms of the connections I've made in Taiwan at the ITRI. So thank you very much for everybody coming on to the chat or the Zoom call today. I'm sorry that Meenakshi wasn't able to come on with us one more time. She seems to have some interesting programs that she's doing in India. I don't know the details, so I couldn't tell you very much more. But Meenakshi is also, through her nonprofit, a member of the UN Global Compact as well, UN Global Compact India, of course. And so her LA Global Foundation is a part of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors Network. And so we do have a few connections to the UN Global Compact through our memberships in that network. And so we can follow along and have a voice at the table. Okay, thank you very much, Lisa Anise. Thank you very much as well. Others who have come on our call, Stanislaus, Mwansa, Kenneth Ajay. We are just about to finish today because we, again, did not have our guest speaker on with us. Unfortunately, for the second time in a row. I may try again, not for next week, but in some future date while I'm still here in Taiwan. But at this time, before we depart, would either of you, Stanislaus or Kenneth, would like to introduce yourselves as well, so that people on our call, especially those watching on Facebook, will know who you are. And I'd like to ask as well if both of you, if you haven't done so yet, could enter your contact information into the chat, so we'll have that record of you being on this call. Mr. Mansa, is it possible that you can introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Professor Lloyd and the team. This is Stanislaus Chabala Mwansa, the executive director of the From Heart to My Community Grace Foundation, the NGO, local NGO Zambia, in the city of Ndola, on the Copper Belt province of Zambia. Yes, we are very, very grateful for the things that we are learning from this high-profile network, and indeed, this information is going down to the masses, because when we have the meeting like this, we don't just sit on the minutes. We do also light minutes, and then we share the information to the people within our reach, which is very important for us. And yes, I'm very grateful once again, Professor, for considering me to be your co-admin in the group. And yes, Professor, once again, I just want to make mention that last week, I think it was last week when we had the meeting like this one, was it Monday or last week? You make mention that someone is going to contact me, and I'm still really waiting for that correspondence. Yes, and this morning I received the correspondence concerning the meeting that we had. on 5th. I'm sure it should be 5th of this week. So we are that the correspondence I received with my gratitude and wholeheartedly. So we are very thankful for considering and recognizing that Zambia will eventually grow. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Kenneth, is it possible you can introduce yourself as well? Just to close out today.
My name is Kenneth Aji from Nigeria.
Mhm.
I
Are you
school
with-
in Nigeria. I school in Nigeria as a criminologist. I'm also a point. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I believe you said you're studying as a criminologist.
Yes, in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm. What university is that?
University of Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria.
Mm-hmm. JOS is JOS.
Jos.
Perhaps I'd like to ask you to put your contact information in the chat if you haven't done so yet.
Okay.
So we do have your information on file as a record of our participation in these calls.
Okay.
Again,
I'll do just that.
we want to make sure that those who are coming on these calls are recognized as well for having done so. In future, we'll likely also be implementing a system of what are called, I forget the name exactly right now, but there's a company, an organization in Vancouver, Canada, that's putting together a soft skills points system where when people participate in events like this one, they can get what are called soft skills rating points, which they can put on the resumes, they can put on their bios, for instance, in LinkedIn or other places, that can be linked back to the rating system that this organization has developed regarding the soft skills that they learn as they participate in events such as these. So that will be something we'll be looking to integrate into our ecosystem as we move forward in cooperation with this other organization. So thank you all for coming on today. I'm seeing that it is 12:12 a.m. for me. So given that, again, we did not get our guest speaker coming on today, has everybody been able to put their contact information into the chat for the Zoom?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Oh. I will start the call. Okay. Stop. Share. And